right.
Cool.
We are
All
here.
right. Sorry, trying to get some levels here at the very last second.
Yeah.
The,
Last second levels.
yeah. I realized I hadn't set your guitar level direct yet. You were plugged in, so we should we'll fix that at some point. Oh no, you don't want that in the shot. Yeah, the light. Yeah. If it gets too it's weird in here. We've had like the last one we got a bunch of comments, people saying that we look like we shoot in like an underground cave.
Well, it
Like,
is.
we look like
You don't want them to know you guys
cave.
live in
Yeah.
a cave?
look like an Al Qaeda meeting, like by candlelight or something. So, sort of like, okay, fine. So we're trying to keep it more well lit, but it's it's the backlight. That's the thing that gets you. That's why it's so dark in here. It'll actually, I think, appear lighter later. So yeah.
Strange because we had the curtains open last time and it was really dark.
Yeah. Yep. Well, anyway, so today we've got Lauren Sheehan has joined us, like last minute rushing in from the coast.
Yeah, hey.
And we're getting everything set and going here.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
So I'm going to be running around like a madman, going around this way and coming around doing that stuff.
And we might have a guest come in and use our kitchen too, but he won't make any commotion.
Oh, got it.
Matt wants to.
This is pretty down home, you guys.
pretty
I
down
like
home.
this. I'm comfy. Yeah.
Well, you know.
And I don't know if y'all can see, but check out this.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's the first thing that happens. Here, I'll fix
Check
that.
out the rocking chair.
I'll fix that.
Yeah, my father, Ralph Cleveland, made that rocking chair for me back in the 80s, I think. I think it's solid oak. Pretty sure.
Okay.
And while you guys are doing the tech stuff, how about I'm gonna say a little bit about Lauren. Lauren Sheehan is a singer and a multi-instrumentalist. She's toured all over the U.S. and I think were you in Hong Kong or something? Where was?
Yeah, I did a couple shows in Thailand, and I
Thailand.
worked in Ireland and Canada.
Okay, so you toured. All
I
over
did
the world.
sing some music in a cathedral in France at one
Wow,
time.
that's awesome.
It was a ruin, but it was really a thrill.
I bet it was beautiful though.
It was beautiful. The reverb was unlike anything I've ever experienced before.
Wow. Well, just say a little bit more about you. You got 5 albums, and I think you're on one that's forthcoming that Phil Wiggins is putting out. Is that right?
I'm not sure what they decided to do with that album,
Okay.
but there's a book called The Sweet Bitter Blues.
Yeah.
And it's about Phil Wiggins and his role in the DC Piedmont music
okay.
scene, which was really super popular and really important in a piece of oral transmission during that time when radio was popular and everybody was getting records, but there were still old timers who were playing old music that they learned from their elders. So the Archie Edwards Barber Shop was literally a barber shop where people would hang out and play blues. And it turned out to be a center where an incredible amount of cultural transmission happened. So that's what that book centers
very
around,
cool.
that idea. Yeah,
And
Phil
this was in the
Wiggins.
D.C. area?
Yeah.
Nice. And Phil's on Two Wings, that album, right? Correct?
Phil is on Two Wings and Some Old Lonesome Day, my first project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he plays the most amazing version of The Werewolf with me. The Werewolf,
Oh,
a
he
song by
does?
Michael Hurley. And man, we were stunned in the studio. He disappeared a little bit before it was his turn to record. And that is worth listening to because it sounds like he's going to devour his harmonica
That
in the
song
middle
is
of the
spooky.
solo. It's so spooky.
And sometimes I think I've played it with you when your German Shepherd is Raina is there and you start howling, right?
Yeah, Raina
And
will
she
howl
starts
along.
howling
Yeah.
along.
And there have been times out at the Wilson River where I live where we've been playing it outside around the campfire at night. And she's trained to sing, and she mostly sing. 90% of the time, she'll be obedient and sing on command. And she has howled along. And when we finished or took an instrumental break, we heard packs of coyotes howling. There have been about 3
wow.
times when that's happened. So then the coyotes answer from across the river. It is so cool.
I love hearing coyotes.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite sounds, actually. I haven't heard it for a long time. Well, your music has been It's in the Library of Congress?
Some of it is cataloged there, yeah.
It's amazing.
There was, I guess I should follow up and really understand which projects are there as themselves. But Diane, Anderson, I should have checked my notes before ahead of time. I think that's her name. Did a project, and she's based in Seattle, and it was called the Music Box Project. And she thought it would be really interesting to go around the country and just see women musicians she started meeting. This is a really good project to check out during Women's History Month. And she started meeting cool women, many of whom were on street corners, or she would then get invited to somebody's house or to a party and meet more women. And she started videotaping and recording a little interview in some of their music. And they passed her on to someone who passed her on to someone. And she went around the country meeting all these amazing women and recording some of their stories and their music. And it is such a great project of contemporary roots music. And that is in the Library of Congress, and I'm part of that. And that has led to a couple of other things. And
wonderful.
the Music Box Project, check it out. I think it's a YouTube project that you can access, and all the different episodes and performers are listed, so one can choose how much they want to listen to at a given time and come back to it. It's super cool.
Speaking of women musicians, that it might be a good time to bring up the project you did with the Banner. Was it the Gibson Banner guitars?
Yeah. Well, here's one. I'm going to show
Okay.
it. I think the camera that I show to is over. Let's see. Yeah. Why don't you here, take it and give it a close up in maybe the headstock especially. And the patina on the body. I mean, this is such a beautiful instrument. And it's a 1943. It was kind of refurbished by Robert Steiniger, a wonderful luthier who lives here in Beaverton, Oregon. And did you get a good shot of that banner on the headstock? The only guitars that have that banner, which says only a Gibson is good enough, are the guitars that were made in World War II, or they're the reproductions of those guitars.
Cool.
And
Can we
Turn-
get a little level of that guitar real quick?
let's do that. Yep.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not getting the plugged in sound.
How about now?
Okay, there it is. There it is.
Great.
Do I hear a little more?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more.
Great. Sounds good to me.
Sounds good in my headphones.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
What was that little piece?
A little bit of Windy and Warm, a piece written for Chet Atkins, and that
Oh,
Doc
yeah.
Watson also
You can replug
kind
that.
of made it famous. Yeah.
Who wrote that piece? Do you know?
I have forgotten.
It was written for Chet Atkins.
It was
so,
written
yeah.
with Chet Atkins in
And
mind.
he
Yeah.
recorded it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really good version on, I think, Hee Haw. Is Hee Haw the one that Buck Owens?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I think it's on
picking,
that.
And I'm grinning. Buck owns Roy Clark. I watched
But
that.
yeah, there's a good version on YouTube of Chet playing it.
I'll have to check that out. Our friend Dave Ricketts likes to play that tune too. You met Dave.
Oh, I did meet Dave. Yeah.
Yeah. We were trying to have him on here, but we'll have him on another time. I think he had a cold when he was in town.
Oh yeah. Not a great time to speak
No.
on radio or TV.
But we'll get him on here.
Well, so these Banner guitars are in existence, and guitar nerds kind of know about Banners and love them. In fact, I go to the Weezer Idaho Fiddle contest every year, and backstage there are a lot of J45 Banner for Gibsons, and they seem to be a backup fiddler's choice for, at least at that festival. I'm sure guitar backup guitar favorites shift from region to region. Now that would be an interesting project to see what the backup guitar choices are. Anyways, so a wonderfully curious, engaged human named John Thomas started noticing that although Gibson published their guitar and factory history in 1975 and published that they didn't make instruments in World War II, he noticed that, he knew there were all these Banner guitars around. He knew the story was that they were made in World War II, and he had a collection of and started noticing and paying attention to photographs of very large workforces at the Gibson factory. So he noticed, of course, that most of the people in those photographs were women. And so his curiosity led him to try to dig into this story. And in so doing, he discovered that, yes, indeed, Gibson really did make and ship out 25,000 instruments. And there were some of the older or compromised luthiers who didn't qualify for war service who were left, but they weren't enough to possibly crank out that many instruments. So we can just deduce that the women, of course, had to help and learn luthier techniques quickly. John likes to surmise that their finger dexterity from the kind of handwork that women used to commonly do at the time contributed to their ability to learn the delicacy of luthier skills under guidance really quickly. And so he just really uncovered this idea that many women never got credit for all these incredible guitars that they made. The ones that have survived are mostly great instruments. They're just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does I don't really know Gibson's history that much. Do they have like certain individual luthiers that kind of get most of the credit, like as being like, this is a so-and-so period, instrument, and this is a so-and-so period instrument? Because I know like when it comes to like the D-hole style, like gypsy jazz guitars,
Yeah.
like those ones really have like certain builders that are very well known.
Yeah.
Like, that's a Favino, that's like there's certain periods that like people put out like really great guitars. Oh yeah. One of whom is one of the most famous builders right now is a woman. I can't remember. Shelley Park. Yeah, she makes really fabulous guitars that way. But yeah, does Gibson have like periods where there were certain luthiers that kind of got all the credit for?
My brain isn't so great at remembering the specific details, but what I do remember is that there are periods in which there were certain builders who were the lead builders in the different factories. The early Missoula years and current Missoula years for the special editions are really well thought of. The Kalamazoo years, I don't really know which periods go with which lead luthiers, but yes, there is a pattern of some of the years being much more carefully supervised and more carefully directed and
Right.
having much better reputations.
And those luthiers are generally men, like who are getting that
Yes.
credit, right? Yeah.
We don't
That's
have the
interesting.
name of a lead luthier from the Banner guitar period, but what John did discover what he's discovered was a dozen women luthiers who were still alive in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where that factory had been at the time. And he put an advertisement in the newspaper and perhaps something else saying, oh, if you worked at the Gibson factory, I'd like to meet you. And so he had a high tea at the local vintage hotel, and no one came. I think I have these details right. John, if I don't have it right, excuse me, but I think no one came, or hardly anyone came, and he just couldn't believe that everyone was dead. And so he tried again, and I think during that period, the grandchildren intervened, and the grandchildren were saying, no, Grandma, that's you. You worked there. This is who he wants to talk to. And his accounts from most of the women are that it was inconceivable to them, these very lovely, old-fashioned Midwestern women, it was inconceivable to them that they could have done something so important at that time that someone would actually want to talk to them. So it's a really beautiful story, and the history book does a great job of really giving back to them pride and an understanding that they actually made a huge contribution in this little niche world that's super valued. And what a great,
That is beautiful.
yeah, it's really beautiful.
How did you become involved with this project? And there's a recording affiliated with this project too, with The Light Still Burns.
Yeah. The Light Still Burns is a companion CD, and it was recorded to present a sonic scape to this history book. So when you were reading about the story, you could hear what these guitars sound like. And this was John's idea. So first I'll tell you what the project is. The Light Still Burns, and you can get it from my website, Lauren Sheehan Music, if your interest is being piqued. And the project involved my going to the studio, choosing what songs I wanted to play. John hired a tremendous world-class engineer, and boy, I sure wish I had my CD in front of me so I could rattle off his name for you. But he was fantastic, and he spent a lot of time trying to figure out the audio recording system. And he used a closed stereo mic system similar to what Yo-Yo Ma used, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
And once he got that set up, he didn't shift it. So when you listen to these CDs, all the nuances of the guitar timbres and voicings that you hear are the guitars. They're not fancy EQing and all sorts of engineering wizardry. So that you can hear 15 different Banner guitars on the CD. And I tried to pick period music that I thought common folks would play. That's opposed to, translating radio big band hits onto solo guitar. So I played some Stephen Foster music, some cowboy music. My grandfather, who was born in 1900, was a musician, and my mom used to sing all these little ditties of songs that he played. So I kind of had a reference from her repertoire of what songs were just commonly known. And I also knew that a lot of country blues players were actively playing at that time. So I tried to pick some country blues player songs that I had learned from folks who were playing music in that era, and then give a representation of songs that were, in my opinion, people's music, not highly commercialized music. So every track's a different Banner guitar, a lot of different genres on there. The most interesting of all to me was when John presented a guitar that had gone to the front in Europe. So a soldier had bought the guitar and then was able to take it with him, brought it back, and he was the single owner until 6 months before this project. Gosh, it's beautiful. On the CD, there are photographs of all the guitars, so you can see this incredible patina, and it was a J45 and a dark, really beautiful, dark, crackly instrument. And so I played the old song with Irish and English roots that dates back in this country to Civil War times, Johnny, I Hardly Knew You. And it was so otherworldly to play that very tender anti-war song on this instrument that had gone to the front. So that was very kind of cool and beautiful, and the engineer did a great job. That guitar just sounds amazing. John still has it. Yay, John. I know he plays it every now and then. He'll play a song and put it on his YouTube or Facebook, and so you can hear it actively in life still.
Those are wonderful stories. I'm so glad that some of those women are getting the recognition.
Yeah. The guitar inspector, I know she had her 100th birthday. I don't know if she's still alive, but she inspected this guitar. There was just one woman who was the guitar inspector, and she was still alive when John did all the interviewing. So he asked her, well, how did you get trained? That's an amazing responsibility. And she said something like, well, they brought me in the room and they told me to put the instruments that I didn't think were good over here and the instruments that I thought were, ready to sell over here. So he said, well, what was the criteria? And she said, well, if there were little dings or something, we'd put them over on this side. So it doesn't sound like she happened to be well trained for intonation and, fret balance and all the kinds of things that we would think that a guitar inspector would be trained for. Perhaps she omitted some of that in her discourse, or it was an accident. But the funny thing was that at the end of the conversation, she said, "But I think they just sold them all anyway."
Right.
John has a lot of wonderful vignettes from these older women. It's just so charming. So, Kalamazoo Gals, the amazing women of Gibson World War II banner guitars. Kalamazoo Gals by John Thomas. That's
So
the
cool.
book. If you want to read more about these banner guitars, I'm sure you can find the book on Amazon.
Right on. Cool. Right now I have a banner up of your website. So,
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, which I think it should have links to that there.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
You can read about the Gibson story under the projects. Yep, that was a lot of fun. And the way I got onto that project was also very serendipitous. I had been going to some of the Folk Alliance conferences and the Folk Alliance regional conferences. If you don't know about Folk Alliance, it's a national organization trying to help musicians who are trying to learn more about folk music or try to have careers in folk music get connected. And there are industry people and musicians who go. And of course, there are workshops and then a great number of showcases, formal and informal ones. So I went to many of those for a while, and I really liked the Northeastern one. There's still a very vibrant folk community in New England. It's older. People live closer together than they do out west. Certainly used to live close together. Maybe now we're all getting closer together. And there was a tradition of music in the schools, pianos in parlors. Pretty hard to bring a piano on the Oregon Trail. So there was just more music. And for longer, it's been civilized longer, or at least inhabited by Western Europeans and
Yeah.
others longer.
Yeah.
And so there's more of a tradition of music and shared music. So there are more coffee houses, there are more venues, there are more listeners. There's just a more vibrant folk scene. So I really liked going there. Plus, I still had family alive there. I still do. I have some. And both of my children went to college in the Northeast 5 years apart. So I had a nice 11-year run with a draw to go back there. So I was back there at the New England Regional Folk Alliance Conference and met this wonderful, charming, eccentric, brilliant guy named Robert Corwin. Well, it turned out that Robert Corwin had been the official photographer at the Newport Folk Festival starting in the 60s. So you guys, he was there for the
That
whole
guy,
thing.
You gave me some postcards of photos, beautiful photos
They're
of
beautiful.
Joni Mitchell and Dylan. There's Dylan and who else?
I had some of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Bill Monroe.
Bill Monroe, yeah. And those are so good. I love that one of Joni Mitchell.
Well, Robert Corwin has a website, so you can go to Robert Corwin's website and see and purchase some of the photographs of some of the mega stars and beautiful folks from that time, the Newport Folk Festival and that whole era of folk music. And he also has a beautiful website. It might be Martin Guitar. If you start searching around the website for Martin Guitar, and his concept was that he would have a online museum. So while you couldn't see and touch the instruments in 3 dimensions, you could in 2 dimensions. And since she's such a fantastic photographer, all the photos are amazing. So you can go to this, get this, like you can go to a section on his website and see the history of tuning pegs and the American guitar. And then there's this beautiful chronological series of photographs with descriptions of the evolution. You can see the evolution of the American guitar chronologically just incredible headstocks. You can just look at a chronological history of beautiful headstocks, some of the most ornate and fancy, and some of just the standard ones, though, that represented perhaps Martin moving through time. And so Robert Corwin, yeah, he's a wonderful photographer, and I encourage anybody who's interested in photos from the area, or if you want to geek out on just gorgeous guitar photos, go to Robert Corwin's Martin Guitar website. So Robert and I made friends, and then it turned out he loved the kind of finger picking that I did. So we made more friends, and I visited him a couple times when I was touring back east, and he asked me if I would like to help him with a project, which was to tour some of his vintage guitars, and he would give a little history of the evolution of the American guitar. And he would bring examples. I think he started in the 1830 or 1850 and moved on to 3 different versions of Martin 1940 guitars. Those were the most recent guitars, because Martin was really starting to develop the OM series at that point, or had really come to a beautiful pinnacle in its evolution. And then he asked me if he could hand me guitars and I would play them. But he said, this was the hardest part. The first part was, yeah, sure, I want to go on tour and play all your beautiful guitars with you. Yeah. But the hard part was, he said, but I don't want you to figure out ahead of time what you're going to play on every guitar, because the way you sit and sort of get acquainted with the guitar and find its voice is what's really beautiful. And that's what I really hope that you'll also share and that people can hear. And that's a tough job, right? Hey, be in my play, and I won't tell you the lines. But, just be flexible. So it was cool. I mean, it was really a treat. On our way home to Philly, where he lives, we stopped at John Thomas's house, because John Thomas had borrowed some of his guitars so that he could x-ray them. Well, he didn't x-ray them, but he had access to a way to get them x-rays. So he had these beautiful x-rays of the insides of the guitars, because he was continuing to be curious about why the banners are so cool. So he was curious about bracing size, the exact aspects of how the braces were shaved. What else? Top dimensions. Was there anything to learn about the tops? What about glue thickness? All the things that you would consider if you wanted to uber analyze.
Yeah, the X brace that Martin Guitars patented sometime in the 1800s, late 1800s, I believe, was what basically completely revolutionized music generally. It was this.
Is yours X-braced?
Yeah.
Russell's
yeah.
a guitar builder,
Russell
so he's
built
got a
this
guitar he
guitar,
built
yeah.
here.
Well, I built this one guitar, and yeah, if you feel on almost any steel string guitar, you'll feel like a little point right here where the X braces come across. And it's a really simple idea where you just put, an X of brace over like the most pressure on the guitar. So right here, there's an incredible amount of pressure pulling up, right? On a guitar with a bridge, there's an incredible amount of pressure pushing down. But so either way, this spot gets a lot of heat, right? And so Martin just came up with this idea of like, let's just mark it with an X. They patented that, and like that led to a guitar that could handle the kind of pressure that steel strings have, which is about 10 times what nylon have. So from that point, you had once the steel string developed, it didn't take very long for people to be like, what if you put a magnet underneath it and make it electric, and you're off and running. Like what you have there on your guitar, people pretty quickly discovered that you can make a microphone out of this.
Yeah.
Which is how a microphone works as well. It's got like a little plate of metal here, a magnet underneath, and every time that you speak into it, you move that little plate of metal against the magnet, which is the exact same way that like the
electric pickup works.
Yeah, the string works. It passes over, the steel string is passing over the magnet, creates a little tiny bit of energy, and boom, you're off to
cool.
Electricville.
Wow.
But none of that could have happened with nylon. Like nylon
Yeah.
strings can't make that happen. So
Yeah.
that invention just completely changed how people play, where the guitar could be played, and like what setting. You know, because then you all of a sudden have, you know, like Freddie Green style, you have people playing guitar
Right,
along
yeah.
with big bands and stuff, you know, which was never a possibility when people were playing a nylon string guitar.
Well, since we're geeking out a little bit on the evolution of guitars, we
Yeah.
should mention the resonator guitar. That's in the interim period, though.
Yep.
Right, because the resonator guitar has a steel cone. I didn't bring mine with me, but has a steel cone,
I'll be back.
which then pops out.
We can address that issue.
Oh, good. Further amplifies the sound and then pops it out the top, and it's so much louder than a wooden guitar. So when the National Company and the Doppieri brothers, the Dobro brothers, started experimenting with these cones and everything, then we got these really loud metal guitars. But that was just shortly before the pickups started getting invented. So once pickups got invented, Freddie Green wanted the electric guitar because it worked better in the band context. And then once all the players started getting electric guitars, the resonator guitars were kind of discarded. And once the more elite musicians start discarding instruments, of course, they would fall through. They'd go to Goodwill, so to speak, and come into the hands of the folks who couldn't afford the expensive gear. So that's why we hear so many early country dobro and early blues players playing resonator guitars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And we
it's
have
funny
one
'cause
now.
The banjo kind of defeats all resonator guitars anyway, right? I mean, not the tone, but the
Well, bluegrass banjos.
well, the volume of a banjo. If you strum it, like, you know, I'm thinking of like in a Dixieland context.
Oh, right.
You know, like those things, just you hit it with a pick, and for volume, you kind of can't be beat with a banjo. But this one actually has like a quality of tone that is really, really nice.
Do you want to sit here and use this mic so people could hear it?
I think
You think it's coming
it's
through?
getting through. I can move my mic too. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Geeky, tech thing too is I think that the speaker cone may have been developed from resonator guitars.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That
yes.
makes sense.
So the whole idea of like having speakers, for
with a cone.
for those electric guitars to plug into, I think came from the actual speaker cone technology developed.
Oh,
in
that
Resonate.
makes total sense.
And so what's interesting about these is that it's a speaker. I wish if I took this plate off, right, this little decorative plate here. There's an upside down speaker pointing down into the guitar, and so the way that the guitar, it still uses the same technology as this guitar, where you're pushing sound into, from a soft top, right, into like hard back and sides, and then coming out of a sound hole of some kind, whether that's F holes or an open hole. And this is the same idea, where you've got a speaker pointed down into, hard metal back and sides, right, and then it bounces back out through these F holes, so that
Oh, yeah.
slightly different technology than like a drum, which is just straight through, right? You hit one side and then it resonates the other side, and you're out. This is meant to be pointed forward, so it's
Yeah.
like they bounce the sides off the music off the back, comes out the
That's
holes.
cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand the directionality of that. Yeah, let's hear it. Cool. What about bringing it closer to the camera so people can really see the
yeah,
headstock
sure.
in it? Because there are probably some people listening or watching that have never really known about this.
Well, so this was an inexpensive Chinese instrument that Gretsch made, or put their name on, and I when I got it, the cone was collapsed. I told the person, like, I got it for like half price. So I told the person, like, hey, if you replace that cone, give me a price for a new cone, then we're good. And I put, like, you replace the cone in these things, and it's just incredible. Like, I've heard it next to old nationals, and I'm like, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, good. That was cool. Do you have a new national cone in it?
It's a
Or
beard cone.
is that the standard cone? I know that there's kind of a standard cone.
Yeah, national cones are really nice. But beard is also really nice, and it's like a quarter of the price.
And it's an alternate company, an alternate choice.
Yeah.
You got to show it to the camera, though.
National's cool, but they're a little pricey, especially to try and get like a whole national guitar these days. I mean, you probably know they're always like $4,000 or something like that.
Yeah, and there's always interesting compromises and careful timbre choices and aesthetic appeal that we musicians have to make.
Not a thing.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
It is.
You want a cheapo? It's a nice one.
So Lauren, what are you these days? You live. We're in Portland, Oregon right now. You live halfway to the Oregon coast, to Tillamook, along the Wilson River, and so you don't play as much in Portland as you used to, but you're still playing a lot. And I'm playing some gigs with you, and you're not touring as much probably as you were for a while. Is that sort? And you're teaching at Pacific University in
Right.
Forest Grove, which I know keeps you busy. So.
Yeah. Okay, before we get into that question in the topic area, do you mind if I finish the story? Because we, being St. Patrick's Day, of course, we've taken a very Irish approach to my answering your question. We've gone down so many interesting streams, but the story
Yes.
wraps up with
Okay.
me and Robert Corwin
Oh, right.
at John Thomas's house picking up guitars because he has borrowed them to make x-rays to put in his book and also to help his research and understanding for guitar sounds. And so Robert introduces us and we have tea, and John so I say, well, what are you up to? Trying to make polite, respectful conversation at our host's home. So he tells me, and it's this amazing, fascinating story, and he sees my attraction to the whole story and the idea. So he says, and I'm thinking of making a CD that would go with the book so that people could hear the guitars. And obviously, what a great idea. Right, because we're talking about something that has to do with the sonic realm. So yeah, have a sonic experience. And so he says, and so it's a woman's project, so I should have a woman guitar player. So do you want to make the CD? And it was that simple. And he had never heard me play, and I had never read his writing. So we said, well, why don't you listen to my website, and why don't I read your manuscript, and let's see. And then we decided to work together. So that's how the whole thing ended up. And I just went back to Connecticut and did the project back there. He had organized how he wanted it to go. And now I've ended the story about how I made that CD and got involved with the project.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I want to listen to that soon.
Yeah. Steve and I are doing a show on Saturday night down at the Butteville store in Butteville, Oregon, the longest continually operating retail establishment in the state of Oregon, because it's located near the end of the Oregon Trail on the Willamette River. And so there was a trading that happened there early on, and things just kept going. And now it's a historic site, and there's a historic organization that helps it keep going. And Steve and I are going to integrate more Blarney and Irish material into our regular repertoire on Saturday. So
I was wondering about that, but I
Yeah.
know you know a lot of Irish stories and songs, so.
Yeah, I do. It's going to be fun. So anyways, there's my last name is Sheehan, It's a good Irish
Yes.
name. So I really enjoy getting to dig into that part of my cultural inheritance a little bit. During lockdown, we stayed at our place on the Wilson River on 25 acres out in Tillamook. And after that period, I realized that I had maybe enjoyed enough of hustling an act that could be nationally touring a good part of the year and regional work. And it felt like a new time in my life, and maybe the right time to shift over to being a local musician, because I never really did that. I mean, I took local gigs and I played with local people, but my career focus was being able to play concerts and a little bit more of esoteric repertoire in a concert formation, And that meant I toured, and I toured a lot. So yeah, I've kind of wound that down a little.
I want to do that. I want to do that so bad. How did you develop that? How do you get started on getting people to you go to a town and have people come to your show? I don't get how that's done.
I can talk about how I did it, but my experience is also that things are different now post-COVID. And so, I'm at the end part of my life, not the middle part anymore. So, and my energy is different. So I can talk a little bit about it, but I really don't know if this is, it's not advice, because I don't know really what the scene is now. I just know that post-COVID, things are different.
Well, I
Venues
feel like
are different.
There's always a similarity. I mean, whether or not you're talking about social media or you're talking about, internet, pre-internet, or what, I feel like there's always sort of basic human elements that get people out to a show.
Yeah.
So for example, like crowds or not crowdsourcing, but like Patreon model where you have people like contribute to your monthly, contribute to you as an artist, monthly, right? That went back to I remember I think I mentioned this a while ago that I went to a cafe with my girlfriend at the time. We had I had a guitar on my back, she had a violin with her, and there was a guy who was hosting a like a poetry night, and he was extemporizing, and he said hey guys, you want to, and he was a great violinist too, and he's like, hey, you guys want to play a tune? And so we were like, sure. And then he got us all to, we played, and then he said, hey, you guys got an album coming out? And we're like, no, we don't. And he's like, I think you do. He's like, how many people here would contribute, $15-20 to these guys, like putting out an album?
Sweet.
You get a copy of the CD when they're done. It was kind of like, okay. And we had like 20 people put enough money in, so we're like, well, I guess we got to do this now. You know what I mean? So, but there's ways pre-internet of kind of doing the same idea. Yeah. So I guess I'm just curious, like, where was like the moment where you went out on tour and you were relatively confident that like you were going to do a show and people were going to show up?
Yeah. Oh, I am still not relatively confident that I'm going to do a show and people are going to show up.
I know.
That is just the mystery, right? Unless you're really famous, it's just crazy how some shows are packed and some shows aren't.
Right. Like in our world, like we've utilized like the dance community. There's a lot of people who really like the swing music and really like to find, have something they can dance to and some variety. And we like to play a variety of different things. So we've sort of like reached out to that crowd, and that's been pretty good for like, getting people out to the shows.
Well, I think I'll respond to your question by just kind of responding to what you just said. I would suggest, how many are you in the band? How many vehicles does it take to actually bring that band to another town? How many beds do you need? And what gear do you need on stage every time to make your sound really good? And when I asked myself those questions, I quickly found I only want to be a duo or trio because we can fit in one vehicle. Accommodations are a lot easier. We need less gear, and it's easier to be versatile for large and small spaces. So that question has to be answered. What size ensemble is important to you and your aesthetic and your musical goals to bring on the road, and then have to be realistic then. Okay, so what's that going to take? So whatever it is for you, that's what it is. So where are other dance communities in what other towns? And they want to know, oh, cool, what do you guys look like? What do you sound like? So do you have some good audio visual? Because everybody's got mediocre audio and visual. And I'm finding fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer have really good audio and really good visuals.
This was something that David Rovick's mentioned, and he has a book that was about like how to it's called How to Be a Troubadour.
Yeah.
And, but he had mentioned that like, hey, it's really difficult to sell a recording now. You know what I mean? So like a high quality studio recording, like that's very difficult to do. He said, so what's the point of doing it? It's like, well, because a studio recording, people actually share. You know, people are actually going to, they hear a great song about a certain issue or something, and they want to share that with people when it's a high quality recording.
Because they can hear it. And if you've got a great engineer and it's high quality, they know how to make it translate. Here's what I learned, and it aligns with my particular aesthetic. I mean, we all have different aesthetics. I know a lot of fabulous younger musicians, and they don't want a good recording. They think it's just bullshit and bourgeois, and you just kick it out, and it's about energy, and that's their value system. And so I've stopped buying a lot of street CDs because I put them on, and it doesn't sound great, and they're not there. Their energy is not translating. So translating is the important word, right? The engineers know what it takes, man. We play, and then they have to take all this signal, and they have to do a lot of sophisticated things with a lot of sophisticated, often expensive, and if it's not expensive, they just really need to know how to use their gear. So in the end, it gets into the computer in a certain way, or if you're doing it on tape, it gets onto the tape a certain way, and then it still has to get back from the computer or the tape into another tape or another computer to get mixed, and then it still has to get mastered, and then it still has to get put onto vinyl or a CD, or I think some people are starting to make cassette tapes again. It still has to then get put onto So think about all those changes in your musical vibration that came out of your instrument and your mouth or your drums, right? So it goes through all this stuff. And if you don't know what to do at every single step, it's not going to translate because we're not there. When people watch us play, there's something visceral that happens. There's something exciting about the visuals. There's something exciting about the ambience and the space in the room and how people around. And that's all part of their experience. And hopefully we have a great sound man so that they have a good sonic, or sound woman so they have a good sonic experience too. But without all that, all you've got is this sound coming out of speakers. And the speakers are smaller, and man, so I don't know if this is a generational thing now that so many people are making things at home, and you can use computer programs and you can follow the directions or take a course, and you can get pretty great sound, but it's not, you can get pretty good sound, but it's not like a great engineer. They're like great musicians.
Well, yeah, that I was going to say before any of that too. There's the whole social skill that needs to occur between the musician and the producer, right?
If you're lucky.
Yeah. If you can, yeah, exactly. If you can have listen to a producer, because for me, that's been really difficult to listen to a producer. When I know that they don't really play the same style of music as me, or something like that. But they can hear when it's like, hey, this sounds cluttered. As we've got like 3 chordal, we got 2 guitars and a piano. What if we just dropped one of those out for a second and had it come back in? You know what I mean? Like those types of things you don't really do in a live setting, or if you're a band that just is used to jamming, like you get your chords and you play them, and you try to use taste and listen. But like the idea of having something completely drop out, come back in, is something that a producer would suggest that musician would probably usually not be like, no, I'm not going to play on the verses.
Unless maybe you were a Berklee school musician, or you've been to music school, and part of your very serious, super disciplined training was to think about arrangements, whether they're loud or live or recording, and what the difference is and how you might approach all that. Because I think some musicians do get that kind of training too. I didn't. My training mostly has come from recording with great producers,
Mm-hmm.
just like you're saying.
Exactly. And those, and a good producer will have that social skill of presenting that idea to you in a way that you want to do it. You know what I mean? Like that they can, not be like, hey, this verse sucks. It's like, no, it's like, I'm feeling a little cluttered here. Like they've got to be able to put it in a way that artistically you're going to be able to hear.
Yeah, in some ways it's more important than the doctor's bedside manner, because artistically we're trying to dig deeper, right? We're in some ephemeral zone, and we're trying to express something that we both often understand and often don't understand, but we're trying to go there and be vulnerable in a way. So at least with the doctor, if he's just frank and says, you got these 3 choices, it would have been nicer if he said it nicer, but it's just sort of a more cut and dry situation. But as artists, if we're doing our best work, we're kind of vulnerable. So yeah, it is really nice when the producer engineers can be kinder in how they are trying to redirect us or have us open to a new idea or try something new or get out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, when you're writing music, do you get more sensitive about how other people play it? Like, I've noticed that when I'm doing a cover of a song, I can be kind of more open-minded to people having their contributions.
Yeah.
But when I've got an original song, like if it doesn't go well, I get like really flustered. Like I get, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like, I can't believe that it sounded like that. Like one of the first times that anyone's ever heard it, and it sounded that bad. Like, let's just stop playing it. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean?
That sounds really painful.
Well, you know, if I wrote a chart wrong or something like that, or somehow the chart wasn't translating and the whole band goes to the bridge, you know, I have recordings like that, like when we were playing live or whatever, and we did one of my songs, and it's just like, oh no, like.
Yeah, well, I guess if there's something that's really a deviation in the form, that would be really a bummer, because then you realize, oh, technically you didn't keep your own stuff together and you didn't write out a good chart. So that's easier to fix than someone interpreting your piece and then you're not liking the interpretation, I think.
Yeah, right.
I don't really know. I'm not a very eloquent lyricist, and I love great poetry and great lyrics. So I have a lot more instrumental music that I've written and not very many songs with lyrics that I feel like are at a level that I want to share. Some of it is great for me to try writing, but I think of songwriting a little bit like, frankly, the high school newspaper, not even the college newspaper. Everybody, excellent, A for effort. I'm so glad people try to express themselves, but really, a lot of material shouldn't be shared. It's really not high enough quality to communicate anything that hasn't been. I mean, in groups and with your friends, that's different.
So that's your message for young people? Quit. No, I'm just messing. No.
My message.
Joke.
Okay,
I know what you mean.
I'm going to try
Joking.
to address that though, because my message is try to be unbelievably realistic and generous to yourself, and really compassionate with yourself, and try really hard to understand what your skills are. I feel like I'm a very good interpreter, and I feel like I like the material I choose. My audience seem to like the material that I choose, and I feel like I'm a much more skilled interpreter than I am writer. So I wish I were a great writer, and that my efforts are really important to me, but I feel like I want to just respect that the truth is I'm a much, much better interpreter than I am songwriter. So being realistic with myself, I want to interpret music for people and feel really great about that. And I don't want to play material because I wrote it and I did my best. I just don't think it holds water, and it's that interesting lyrically, and it just doesn't really seem as deep or as rich, or like there's enough integrity that I want to ask people to listen to it. Yeah. So I guess that's the message. Just
wow, that's really honest. I mean, it's hard to I mean, you put that in a really positive way, but it's true. I mean, it's like that. I kind of feel similar to my stuff, where I'm like, I wrote it, and I want to play, original music. I want to kind of get my stuff out there, but then I hear it and I kind of go like, wow, but I could do like a Nat Cole song that is so much better, that was written a long time ago. And then there's something too about the resonance of certain what would have become cliche passages. Like if I were to use them, I would be stealing somebody else's work. Whereas if I go back and play an old blues song when it was not a cliche, when the person was writing it from the heart, and I do that, then I'm not using a cliche. I'm playing something that's genuine to them, and then therefore genuine to me.
Yeah, that word cliche, that's really important. It is really difficult now to be a good writer and not use cliches. Well, I also, so in my my movement in the Folk Alliance world, since it's an organization to help people network and understand how you do start touring, how you do some of these things. There are a lot of workshops there. I also don't hear enough about finding ways to be brave and get your material edited. I mean, professional writers in the literary world use editors, and they have editors, and there's a process, and there's often a lot of editing that goes on. And I think that my personal experience with many songwriters, and I do know many, is that a lot of people don't really have a practice of getting their material edited, because maybe you can get some help finding something, a way around the cliche.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can get at what you're trying to get at with some help from the outside, because we know what we mean and we don't often know that it's boring the way we said it. And so I would also encourage people to really start trying to find where editorial groups are. And it's really cool to have other entry-level singer-songwriters working together and helping each other edit, but you're kind of in the same situation where, do you have professionals? Who are the professionals in your town? Is there a way to help them edit? And can you just pay them the way you might pay a music teacher? Could you pay someone to help be your editor? Are you investing in a career? So we're back to kind of what you asked. How do you get to start touring? Well, how seriously do you take yourself? How realistic can you be about the options? Because let's face it, there aren't very many options for any of us to earn more than nickels out there. Maybe some tours you come home with quarters.
Huh.
The pie keeps getting smaller, and there are more people who want a piece of it. There are fewer and fewer venues. We're training our culture to show up for music, and what do we hear? Music's free. Hey, live music, no cover. So people aren't used to paying for music. There's just less and less music. So I think being really clear about why you might want to tour. Like, would it be really fun to go to Eugene and play for a swing dance night? And is there something in Roseburg or Medford or Grants Pass or Northern California? What about the dance community in San Francisco? What's in Southern California? Is there something in New Mexico and Reno or Nevada? Is there a swing dance in Boise? Could you make a little circuit for a couple weekends? And could you come home having made no money, but maybe not lost any money?
Mm-hmm.
And would it be really fun? And would that be really inspirational to keep enjoying your life in Portland? That's worth a lot. And I think some people maybe get grumpy because they haven't thought it through, and they thought they were going to get rich, or they realize, okay, it's just like Portland. Some nights the room is full of dancers. Some nights it's not. And so I think being really clear about what you want from getting to tour, and where's the audience that might want what you want, and do you have to bring money back? And if you have to bring money back, then it's a different situation. And I think how you'd go about it is really different. And man, you probably need a reputation, and you probably need some really good recordings and visual. You need a website.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be scrupulous about your business practices, so you return phone calls on time. You know how to not bug people, but know that they're busy. And, you set things up ahead of time. You've got your tour lined out.
And the fact that that recordings, are difficult to sell now.
Oh, yeah, then you're
kinda
not-
You
yeah.
kind of have to have. That's a whole another huge financial hit, right? That
Yeah.
has kind of changed in the last 10 years, especially.
Yes.
But then now you kind of have to have merch, right? You have to have, or something like that, right? To kind of make up for that. You'd have to have T-shirts or something to sell that would make up for the loss of revenue from.
Yeah, but if you're just starting, how many T-shirts do you buy?
Right.
So then, okay, well, you only sell merch again if you're kind of famous. Or I like to sell Robert Corwin's, some of his postcards, and they're not hot items, but typically there are people who at least love looking at his imagery, and maybe they buy the postcard. I just never felt like, well, I'm not hip enough and big enough that, I mean, I don't think I'm going to get, again, I'm not going to get my investment back. I'm going to get my investment back by maybe recording a couple singles or something, so I have some new material to put out, because it helps me get more work.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to get money back from merch, and I don't want to have crappy merch. Oh, that's another thing. Does everything match your branding? Like, if you're kind of a gritty band, does your website, does your merch, whatever you have, kind of reflect the vibe that you have going? And I don't know. Since I'm near the end of a vigorous touring career instead of in the middle of it, I don't really know what the rules are, but I know a lot of places are closing, a lot of places closed during lockdown, a lot of booking agents retired so that there are new agents, and they tend to be younger, and people are looking for a younger audience. That's what we hear. That's what I hear consistently when I talk to agents and other touring musicians, that younger people, people that will help with inclusivity and diversity of the performers and the group, are targeted performers, and a lot of younger people don't know about us older people that had careers, and they're interested in who's younger and upcoming. So I'm in this funny demographic. And I've also noticed that the venues have funny demographics, and I'll just use the Portland Folk Music Society as an example. They are fabulous, and their concert season this year is just tremendous. And the last time I was at one of their shows, there were over 200 people. That is so different from the past. But they were all, well, I think at least 85, if not 90% of the audience looked like they were 55 and older. So cool. They have some money probably. They've had a career. They've got retirement. They've got a budget. Maybe they've paid for their house. They can spend $20 on a concert ticket. And so people like myself or other people can still have a decent gig when they come to Portland. But you can only play Portland Folk Society, once every 10 years, unless you're one of the big favorites and you can come back every other year or something for a few years in a row.
Yeah.
So, I don't really... No, I think younger people who are successful and touring do have good recordings. I see beautiful YouTubes, beautiful videos. I hear great, really nice recordings. So I think we still need that if you want to be in a circuit where there's some money. That said, I have no idea where younger people are regularly working. I only know where I see younger people at the venues that I'm aware of. Do you guys? Do you know where a 32-year-old, really good musician with good chops, a great voice, hardworking, good recordings, but they're not really famous yet? Where do they work?
All around the little pubs and stuff. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
So they're still playing bar music.
Or even like house shows. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
that would be another
Yeah.
venue that I would think would be a possibility. But yeah, it's hard to say. Those things can be more lucrative than you would think, as you probably have discovered. Like, you play a little house show, but then people are totally willing to like give you all the money because they're just happy to have music in their home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about that. So if you were doing a swing tour and you were trying to play for swing dances because you've discovered, people like us, this is a thing, this is a nice niche to start with. Say 3 of you were going to go on tour. I'm just guessing. I don't know this band. People who are listening, I'm not suggesting this is what they should do, but let's just use 3 for a number.
No, 3's perfect. Yeah.
Three-
Yeah,
for
perfect.
3 fits in a car.
Yeah.
Has enough sound you can
Right.
pass things around.
And some other gear. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So 3 of you are likely to know somebody en route, one of you, and that somebody else is going to know somebody else on the route, and somebody else. I mean, you're going to keep finding people you know. And I find that friendship has been really helpful to me in touring, that friends will have a little house party. And some people have it be really little, and only 10 or 12 people show up, but it's a fun thing to do on a Tuesday night when you are on the road and there are no other gigs, and at least you have gas money and you can go get a decent meal, if not better than that. But if only 10 or 12 people show up, but sometimes 25 people show up on a Tuesday, and you have more than gas money and a nice meal. And so filling in with little house shows can make it a lot more comfortable. I don't think it still gives you enough to bring $5 bills home, but it can make your tour a lot more comfortable and a lot more fun and richer. And that's how it has worked for me. The folk circuit venues, some bar venues, because I have a bar repertoire, and I personally think it's a tremendous opportunity for me to really continually validate to myself that I am a folk musician. Okay, here are a bunch of people, here are a bunch of folks in a bar, and they're drinking and they want to visit with their friends, but the background music is important. I like background music when I go to a bar with my friends, so can I play a broad enough repertoire with enough of a mood? It's not my precious or most meaningful material, but it is meaningful to make people happy by being the live musician and part of their social evening. So I love that. And so I'll fill my tours in with, or I filled tours in with bar gigs at select bars. And as I toured, I knew which ones I liked more than others and which ones kind of had a clientele that might dig what I'd play. And then being sensitive during the evening so that if I thought people wanted to hear Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and someone says, do you know any John Gorka? Or do you know any Joni Mitchell? It's like, wow, I didn't think that's where I was tonight, but being flexible to just go in a new direction. And that's kind of cool.
I've watched you do that, and I think you're very good at that. And you're very good, as far as your rapport with the audience. And it comes across that you have a real affection for the audience. You know, you're not like an ivory tower kind of artist at all.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Well, it's I've seen it many times. You have a great connection with the audience. You genuinely have an affection for people, and you're not separating yourself like I'm the artist and it's folk music. You are an artist, but you know what I mean. It's like, and also you're very good at just like somebody will call out some Joni Mitchell tune that you might not really quite know, but you're like, okay, and you'll go for it.
Well, and I'll say, I don't know this well and it's not practiced, but I'll give you what I can.
Yeah, and people love that,
I think the word you use, genuine, is really important. It's important for me too, because sometimes I want to play the music that I love the most, and I have to understand that I can do that in concerts. That's when people have showed up to hear what I have to offer. Mm-hmm. And that's when I can do that. And I'll still try to take requests if I know them, but I kind of have learned now in concerts to not take requests that I don't really know.
You're talking about versus a bar gig concert.
Yeah, versus a bar gig.
Yeah.
So in the bar, people seem really happy if I only know a verse and a chorus and I have to hum along because I lost the words in the second verse and get to a chorus again. I have seen that people are really grateful for that. So it's sort of it's a genuine interest on my part to say, well, I can stay home in my living room and play my most favorite music. I can go visit friends and play my most favorite music. And you guys showed up, and I took this bar gig. So tonight my job is really different from a concert. Tonight my job is to help you all have a really nice night out. And I'll do whatever I can that works for me and that'll work for you. And if you'll forgive me giving you music that's not highly developed, I'm good. And I do like seeing people really happy and valuing that there's live music. So that said, I have a huge repertoire. I like so much different music.
You do have a huge repertoire, yeah.
And at one point, I could really remember lyrics very easily. So
seems like you still do.
Oh yeah.
You'll bust out some a cappella story songs, and it's like how many verses of this, and you remember all of them,
Should I do one right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys feel like playing a song?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can set you up to. You want to sit in the stool and kind of do it properly?
Oh, no,
Are
I'm
you
just
gonna
going
do
to
an
do one of
acapella?
those unaccompanied story
Okay.
songs.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jimmy be fair and Jimmy be fine, he wants me for to wed. And I would marry Jimmy till me father up and said, I'm sad to tell you, daughter, what your mother never knew, but Jimmy is a son of mine and cannot marry you. Oh, Billy be fair and Billy be fine, he wants me for to wed. And I would marry Billy till me father up and said, I'm sad to tell you, daughter, what your mother never knew, but Billy is a son of mine and cannot marry you. Oh, Timmy be fair and Timmy be fine, he wants me for to wed. And I would marry Timmy till me father up and said, I'm sad to tell you, daughter, what your mother never knew, but Timmy is a son of mine and cannot marry you. Now you never saw a girl so sad and worried as I was, for all the boys in town were kinning me father was the cause. If life should thus continue, I would die and never be kissed, so I'll go to mother and complain to her of this. Oh, daughter, haven't I taught you to forgive and to forget? All the boys in town are kin, but still you needn't fret. Your father may be the father of all the boys in town, it's true, but he's not the one who sired you, so marry who you will.
Great.
Oh, yes,
got a
happy
little-
St. Patrick's Day.
It's got a little punchline to
I'll
it.
dedicate that to me dear old dad.
Love it.
That's great. Well, would you two like to play something together, and I can kind of see if I can get a mix going in the headphones? You want
Yeah,
to? Feel like
that sounds
yeah,
good.
try something? Here we go. Yeah, I'll set you up a little bit.
I just want
Yeah,
to
and
say
I do want to
also,
sit on the stool for that.
Let's get you.
Also, I'd just like to say, I think if we're lucky, Lauren's going to stick around. There's going to be a couple other musicians coming by, and we're going to do our music live stream around 2 o'clock or possibly a little later today. But we're going to have a little music
Well, why don't you
right now. I'm just setting
pick up
it
the
up.
stool and move it over there?
Oh, move it this way. Okay. What should we play?
Whatever you want to play that I can possibly get in.
Do we know anything together? Steve and I have been playing, what would you say, 10 years, maybe more than that?
Well, I
a
met
little
you
lower,
through
maybe.
Johnny Ward,
Yeah.
and that was a heck of a long time ago. I would say more like, 15 or maybe even 20 years. I don't know. Everything's kind of a blur at this
Johnny
age.
Ward is a Portland cat, and my understanding is that back in the day, if you wanted to hear old jazz or blues, you either had to have a radio station in town that could play it, or you had to go find 78s. Johnny Ward was the guy in Portland, Oregon that you would have to go find and listen to music with. Phenomenal harmonica player. He was a wonderful horn player, great stage presence, and he has sort of a old school, gritty, greasy feel, like
Yeah.
only a few of the older blues players that are dead and gone now that I knew had. And
Yeah.
I am so grateful that I had about a decade of playing mandolin for him and his band called the Eagle Riding
Oh, right,
Papas.
right.
And then I sang and helped in the front of a bigger band that he had called the Sharkskin Review.
That's
And
kind of where I started working with you.
yeah, and he really, boy, he sure has influenced me. I'm so grateful that I had the chance to learn on the bandstand with him in the old school way.
I'd have to say the same thing about Johnny, and I'm still playing music with him quite often. And the reason I know both you and Russell is through Johnny Ward.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah.
Hey, let's play a tune then we could imagine Johnny playing chromatic harp on an old Duke Ellington tune called I Ain't Got Nothing But the Blues on the second B, second A. You want to come in on the bridge? Sure. Here we are. Ain't got the change of a nickel. Ain't got no bounce in my shoe. I ain't got no fancy to tickle. I ain't got nothing but the blues. Ain't got no coffee that's perking. Ain't got no winnings to lose. I ain't got a dream that's working. I ain't got nothing but the blues. When trumpets flare up, I keep my hair up. I can't let it come down. Oh, believe me, Pappy, I can't get happy till my ever-loving baby comes round. Ain't got no rest in my slumbers. I ain't got no feelings to bruise. I ain't got no telephone numbers. I ain't got nothing but the blues. But the blues.
Yeah.
I think I heard a knock on the door.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, the situation's growing, people.
All right. You want to knock that same one around again for a minute? Could I try that out, solo it on that one?
Let's do something else.
All right, cool.
Maybe with
Yeah.
the band later when it's a different.
Yeah. Well, we could.
Oh, I can't.
We could end this stream and maybe move on to the music portion of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Sounds good. We can take a little break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been doing this
We've been
for a
doing
while.
it.
I bet people maybe are ready to listen to something else. So
Mind if we try one more like this? I'd love to get to play with you
Oh,
for
yeah,
just
okay.
one tune. I think that'd be fun.
that would be fun. Let's play that waltz that I love so much. A waltz by Gillian Welch called
Oh, yeah.
My Dear Someone.
Okay.
And it doesn't have a bunch of jazz tunes, but it goes to a 4-chord that you would expect to be major, but it's going to be a minor 4.
Okay. What
Okay.
key are we in?
Oh, right.
Flat.
A minor.
E flat. All right, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a jazz guy. He can play an E flat. Me, I'm using the capo.
What key is it? I'm sorry.
E flat.
E flat.
I'll do the intro. Actually, I'm going to check that string. I want to go all over the world, start living free. I know that there is somebody who is waiting for me. I build a boat, steady and true. Soon as it's done, I'm gonna sail away into the arms of my dear someone. One little star shining tonight knows where you are. Stay, little star, steady and bright, to guide me afar. Hush, little wind, over the deep. For now I've begun. Hurry and take me straight into the arms of my dear someone. Go ahead, Steve. How about Russell? One little star shining tonight knows where you are. Stay, little star, steady and bright, to guide me afar. Hush, little wind, over the deep. For now I've begun. Hurry and take me straight into the arms of my dear someone. Hurry and take me straight into the arms of my dear someone.
Oh goodness,
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful song. You do it so well.
Thank you. Gillian Welch wrote that one.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for another live stream. Steve's going to play us out with the Feeding the Cats.
And we'll be back quite soon with some more music on another live stream
Right on.
from right here.